Bienvenidos! Welcome everyone! Welcome back to my Mexico Relocation Guide Q&A. I am joined by a very special person today. You guys might recognize her. Her name is Gabrielle. And for those of you who do not recognize her, she is a wonderful facilitator, expert of all things immigration in Mexico City, Ensenada, Rocky Point, and other parts of Mexico. So she does offer physically, she can go with you to these offices, like not her in Mexico City, she can go with you physically, but she also has assistants in Puerto Peñasco, aka Rocky Point, or Ensenada. And for all other parts of Mexico, she can help you do remote services, which, Gabrielle, maybe you can explain exactly what remote services are.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone is looking for a facilitator in a city and they can't either find one or, one doesn't have availability, what we do is we generate all of the paperwork for you. We call it our digital services. We generate all of the paperwork, we get the appointment for you, and then we step by step tell you exactly what to expect at the appointment, what documents you're going to need to take, what you're going to need photocopies of, tell you exactly how to sign the paperwork. I've done a lot of FaceTime or video calls where I sit with the clients on the phone while they sign, just to make sure that everything's being done correctly. Always use a blue pen. Always use a blue pen. Always use a blue pen.
Yeah, blue pens are a real thing in immigration, guys.
They really are. And then the client goes on their own to the immigration office, but well prepared with all of the documentation that they should need. I actually ran into a situation 2 days ago where Cuernavaca asked for something out of the norm, but which is probably the norm now. So now we know, but luckily the client had it on them, but they wanted the birth certificate for their child, even though they'd gone to the consulate, which isn't normal. Like, they had the visa, they shouldn't have needed it. But so, there's some things that I always, I do give the caveat, or not the caveat, but like preface it with, this is according to the law. I'm giving you everything that, is required by law. Everything that we have always provided in the past. You may get surprised if they ask you for something else. And if that's the case, just call us and we'll straighten it out. So luckily, the offices that I typically do my digital services for are easier, smaller offices where you have the flexibility to like run out and go get something photocopied or just make an appointment for the following day. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not somewhere like Mexico City where if you have to make a new appointment, you're going to be in the country again for 5 to 7 days minimum. So,
right. Yeah. Or Monterrey, where it might be a month later.
Yeah. And I don't even touch Monterrey because
yeah. I've heard a lot of people say Monterrey is just the hardest immigration office to deal with. So yeah, Gabrielle does all things immigration. She also has other people help her with things like getting your RFC, being able to, she does relocation tours for our clients. So anyway, she offers a full suite of different services, particularly in Mexico City and these other cities, and then remotely throughout the country. Now, today's live stream is all for you guys. It's to answer questions about Mexican residency visas. So please go ahead and start posting your questions.
Test me how much I really know, right?
Yeah.
How much I really knew yesterday afternoon, but today things may have changed. It is the way, but yeah.
It's so important for everyone to please keep in mind. Number one, Mexican bureaucracy is consistently inconsistent. Whatever we say today, it doesn't matter. The last person who has the final say is the immigration officer 100%. At the day of your appointment.
Right.
We do have a very good idea of a high-level overview of what you will need, but every specific case is different.
Yep.
You might have, one person might need a certain document translated that maybe a previous person who applied at that office did not need translated the weekend before or the week before. Yeah. And those things change on a day-to-day basis. So there might be some curveballs and some surprises. And number two is that things change very rapidly in Mexican bureaucracy, particularly in Mexican immigration. And Gabrielle has been in this business long enough to know that,
Oh my gosh,
You
I've
probably
seen.
can't even remember all the changes that have
I don't
happened
even
in the
remember
last
like
three
how it
years.
was at the beginning. I don't remember what it was like last year. I don't remember what it was like at the beginning of this year because it's changed so much. So yeah,
Yeah.
just like I know what we needed to do yesterday, and we will
Yeah.
plan to do that same thing for tomorrow. And then tomorrow they may be like, oh wait, but now you need this. So
Yeah.
we'll
So,
see.
one thing that I want to mention, and I want to just like kind of get the conversation going, is the differences in either temporary or permanent residency. You probably get this question a lot, Gabrielle.
Yeah,
Like, I qualify for permanent residency, but I'm not retired, but I make enough of the economic solvency, right? Like,
yeah.
I make enough money to meet the criteria. Will I get permanent residency? So, what do you tell people that ask you that question?
Um, to not have your hopes up. I mean, really, a lot of offices. Well, we've kind of seen ebb and flow, right? For a long time, not a long time, a long time ago, um, and a long time ago in Mexican immigration was maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, not like 20
Sure.
years ago.
Yeah.
But for me, a long time ago, we had certain offices that we knew if you had the financials, they would grant permanent, like no questions asked. So if we had clients that are like, listen, I mean, I've got $1 million sitting in a stock account because I started investing on my 18th birthday and I was smart about it, but I'm only 29. Like, can I get permanent residency? And we used to be like, yes, X, Y, and Z office will do that. They are not jurisdictional. Go for it. And they would get it. Then it started getting, and then started tightening up, or they'd get a new console, or someone
Mhm.
new, that something would change. And I mean, I even had clients that like had appointments scheduled at certain consulates, got there, and they're like, oh, that changed yesterday, so we have to give you temporary. And they
Yeah.
flew, across the country. I had some people that were flying across the country, like, So my thing is, don't get your hopes up. Um, Always shoot for permanent if you think you can get it, based on your financials, but expect that you're going to get temporary if you don't have that proof of retirement or that age requirement that they have. Getting permanent is a nice like extra little gift, because at the end of the day you're going to get permanent as long as you keep up with your temporary, right? Like, you just have to do your renewal and then you have to do your renewal again. Yes, it's for 4 extra years, it's 4 extra years of paying, but really at the end of the day, not a whole lot of difference. So
It is a little bit of an extra process to renew your residency, your temporary residency visa. And then at the 4 year mark of being a temporary resident, there is an additional process to become a permanent resident, but it's not that difficult. It's really rare for somebody to get denied. I mean, especially if you come prepared with the right documents. And temporary residency has, even in my opinion, some
some
bigger
benefits.
benefits. Yeah, some initial bigger benefits than permanent residency. Like, for example, you can bring your foreign
Vehicle.
plated car,
Yeah.
for the amount of the temporary residency visa. So if you are married to a Mexican national, that may only be 2 years. But if you are a temporary resident that came through economic solvency, that could be for 4 years.
Hmm.
And that's a nice bonus, especially if you're not in the market of buying a car right away and you can drive your car from Canada or the United States to Mexico. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it has all the same other benefits, by the way. Like, I don't know if you have heard any different from your clients, but I mean,
No, because
most people that
even with temporary, like people are like, well, can I work? Even with temporary, you can add on work permission. You can't um go just work for anyone, like, but you can even add on work permission. And so before it was like, oh, I have temporary, I can't work until I'm permanent. Well, actually you can. It's just another process, but yeah, it's not automatic because you're permanent, but you can.
yeah.
So and then yeah, you have all the same, yeah, you can still open a bank account, you still purchase a home. I mean, you can purchase a home as a tourist too, but you
Sure.
can still purchase a home, you can still open a bank account, still get your RFC, still do all the same things that a permanent resident can do, apart from nothing. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I mean, apart from maybe like, not having to renew, right? Like,
Right.
especially for people that are nervous that like things might change in the future with regards to renewals. I mean, I don't foresee that happening. Obviously, you know, that's above our pay grade,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
there really is no like big benefit to becoming a permanent resident other than not having to renew after you become a permanent resident. You are indefinitely a resident at that point. You don't have to become a citizen. You don't have to live in Mexico.
Precisely.
You know, so anyway, those are some benefits.
Yeah.
Now, Karen has a question. She is wondering, is there a price charged or
Oh,
difference in price charged between remote and in-person help?
yeah, much bigger price difference, because with the remote help, we have someone from my team with you at the office. If you're in Mexico City and in Ensenada, we come to you. Actually, take that back. Not in Sonata right now. But in Mexico City, in person, we come to you at your accommodations. We pick up everything. We go to the immigration office for you. We go to your appointment, and then we call you when we have all the approval documents, and you go in for your biometrics. We wait for you to come out. We make sure that everything goes smoothly. So it's a very hands-on process. We actually, even if scheduling allows, we offer airport pickup. I mean, we've got, you know, we have a very white glove service in Mexico
Very.
City. And then
Yeah.
Ensenada and Puerto Peñasco, you meet us at the office, and or my assistant at the office, you sign there, and then they go in with you. The difference between Puerto Peñasco, Ensenada, and then Mexico City is that Mexico City does not allow two people in for the same procedure. So it's either the agent representing the person or the applicant themselves, which is why it's even a higher price level in Mexico City. But in Ensenada and Puerto Peñasco, which are much smaller, they're tiny offices. Agents are allowed in, you know, with the applicant, so they're there with you, but you're kind of doing everything, so that's different. And then, yeah, in regards to the paperwork, you know, we're not the time. You know, we're not going with you. We're spending the time with you, but not everything. So yeah, it's about half the price, approximately. Yeah. Actually, right
That's
now
a
it's
great
also half the
explanation.
price.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And by the way, every single facilitator charges
Different.
a slightly different price, and that's because every single person is an independent contractor, like they're an independent business owner.
Mhm.
So they set their own fees. You know, just we do give people a range of like you can expect to pay anywhere between 4,000 to about 10,000 pesos per person, which is like around 220 to about $570 per person on top of your immigration fee. So please
Yeah.
consider that these do not include the fees that are paid to
Right.
INM.
Right.
And the variance is so big because there's different levels of hand holding. Some people offer a very white glove service,
Mhm.
and then there's people that just ask you to, you know, send them your passport and your documents, and they fill out
Yeah.
the documents for you, and they send them to you, and they send you to immigration on your own.
Yeah.
So you're doing a lot of the work on your own, other than like maybe filling out the documents that they will fill out for you, and maybe getting you the appointment, which is no easy task either, by the way. Like
It's not. I did a lot today, and yeah.
yeah. And there's appointments on the Mexican consulate side, and then there's appointments on the Mexican immigration side in Mexico.
Right.
So
Which I don't deal with the consulate side of things at all.
you don't schedule the consulate appointment. You do everything on the Mexican side of things.
Yeah. Come to me when you have your visa, and I will happily provide you the best service I possibly can.
Are there any mistakes that you're seeing people make that you wish that they knew? The things that you're seeing constantly people make mistakes on?
On the Mexican side, or in the application process in general, or
Yeah, maybe on the application process in general.
I mean, I know that you know, because I also do run a couple groups, like I've seen, you know, you see people that are like, I went and I didn't have this piece of paper. And you're like, oh, that's a problem. Or one of the biggest things, I haven't had it happen recently, but I've seen people, after you get your visa, right? It's good for 180 or 6 months, technically. And the expiration date is on the visa. But once you enter Mexico with that visa, you have 30 days to get to immigration and start your process. It does not mean that in 30 days you have to have card in hand. It means you have to start the process. So what I have seen a lot of is either people come in and they use the automatic e-gates and they get marked in as a tourist. Depending on which airport they came in through will depend on if that's fixable or not, or how long it's going to take to fix that. I unfortunately had a client this week, came in, got her conhe, got everything written correctly. The airport marked her in as a tourist, not her fault. But they marked her incorrectly, and now she's sitting and waiting until the FMM is fixed and emailed to immigration for us to go in and finish her procedure. Like everything on our end was correct, everything on her end was correct. So that doesn't really answer the errors that I'm seeing, but like things that can potentially come up. And then another one is just not getting the stamp, not showing your visa when you come through the airport, or not getting an immigration in time. I've had people call me and be like, hey, so I have this visa in my passport. What do I do now? And I'm like, when did you enter the country? And they're like, oh, like a month ago. And you see they have like 2 days left out of their 30. And you're like calling everybody you know, or, trying to figure something out to figure out how to get them an appointment because, the appointments have been booked weeks out, yada, yada, yada. And so that I would say are like the biggest errors that I see. Then there's, things that are coming up. I'll just throw this in here. Things that are coming up that we didn't see before. Like, for example, getting there to do a renewal. So say one thing is actually really important. Sorry, I'm kind of going on a bunch of tangents because so many changes. So my brain is on all of these.
No worries.
One thing that people are not paying attention to is how they got their residency to begin with. So if you got it with your spouse via economic solvency, it is imperative that this day, how things are working now, that who was the dependent and who was the primary applicant. Because at renewal, there's the paperwork. They're now asking for a different verbiage in the paperwork. And they're also now asking for, even if you didn't need it at the consulate, even if you had the visa from the consulate, they are asking for apostilled and translated marriage certificates or birth certificates for minors or, things like that. So these are some things to start like preparing. If you already have your residency and say you have a renewal in 3 months, start figuring this out. So if you're just starting the process and you and a spouse are going in, figure out, ask who is the independent, who is the applicant, the primary applicant, who is the dependent in our situation? Because sometimes people will go in, with both names on the bank statements and they just kind of take everything together and they don't tell you. And that's really, really important to know. So that's something.
So they would ask the consulate that information.
I mean, they should be. I feel like they should be able to. They should know how. Who's.
Yeah.
But So not necessarily error, but a key piece of information. Exactly.
A word of caution. On the apostle front or topic.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of renewals for family unification or family unity, vínculo familiar, are requiring now that, the dependents have certain documents apostilled for children, birth certificates, for marriages, marriage certificates. If they are no longer in the United States, because you normally have to get this in the state where the document was registered. Was issued. In Mexico City, are they taking copies of apostilled documents?
I have seen some pass. I feel like it's agent dependent. I mean, really, if it's for a renewal, we had one that they accepted on Monday. Was it Monday? Whatever. Sometime earlier this week. I don't know what day of the week it is. It's been the longest week in the history of mankind. But it was either Monday or Tuesday, and they accepted. We used the online apostille service, apostille.net or whatever it is, and they did accept it. because it was a renewal. Had it been like a family unity, a regular, you know what I mean, where the first, no way, no way whatsoever. I can't imagine. I mean, that's just me saying I wouldn't even try. I'd be like, I'm not going to risk your money, our time to say we're going to take in a document that's not the original. Like, no.
So at that point, if they no longer have plans to go to the United States or Canada, then a family member or friend could get that document and then FedEx it or, send it to them in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually just had a family do that where the spouses got the marriage certificate. Everything was done in the same state, luckily. And so the spouses just had a friend that happened to be there or was coming down or something. And yeah, they sent everything in and got it all sent back. And they just actually even asked for official copies, certified copies. So they didn't even send in, because certified copies work. But like when you sent them, apostille.net, they just printed off what the scan that you send and they send it back. So it's pretty cheap looking copy on top of it.
Yeah, got it. Now I know that you don't deal with the Mexican consulates directly, and I know that you don't schedule appointments for people on the Mexican consulate side.
Right.
However, are there specific consulates that you hear from clients in this day and age or today that you feel like, are better than others? I know, for example, Raleigh, North Carolina is one that we all kind of stay away from.
Right.
They're kind of like, they're very strict, and sometimes they
pull
surprise
weird things
applicants.
out of the hat. Yeah. Like, go get this notarized by this specific notary it's not even something
fishy business for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Phoenix, I mean, not that I love being from Phoenix, but I love that Phoenix is one of the people are always like, oh my gosh, Phoenix was so amazing. Phoenix is great. It's such an awesome office to work with. Boise, Idaho is great, but it has such a good reputation for being great that they're really booked up. Vegas has always been really good. They had a little period where they were rejecting people left and right for not having spent enough time in Mexico. But I think that has eased up because I haven't heard anything about that in a couple months. Tucson is also a really good office. The thing with Tucson, though, is that you have to go in person, show your documentation, and then they give you your appointment. So if you're not from somewhere in the Arizona area and you don't want to hang out in Tucson, especially right now in the middle of summer, you don't want to hang out in Tucson, Arizona for 10 days waiting for an appointment. But Tucson's been pretty good. Houston's been pretty good.
Really? Okay. That's the first I've heard.
Yeah, Houston's been pretty good. I'm trying to think.
Del Rio. I know Del Rio is also one, and Laredo.
Yeah, Del Rio, Laredo, Douglas, Arizona, which is funny because it's such a podunk little town, right? And they have, Douglas, Arizona, New Brunswick, New Jersey on the East Coast is always, I mean, I think they have like 4.2 stars on their Google page. That's insane for for a government office of any sort.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So, I don't know about a lot of the mid Chicago people never really complain about. The only problem with Chicago is that they do take the full 10 days to get you your passport and your approval. So again, if you're not like from the Chicago area, and don't have 10 days to hang out, waiting for Chicago's not the place for you. Fresno, California. Fresno's another one.
California, really? Okay.
Yeah. Fresno is one of the only non-jurisdictional offices in California. So
meaning they don't require you to live in that immediate area.
Exactly. So most of the West Coast is, so Seattle, Washington, Portland. Thank you. I'm like Seattle, Portland, Denver, a lot, everywhere in California except Fresno and Calexico. But I've also heard Calexico is not the friendliest, but haven't had anyone try that in my clientele in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And also, by the way, if you're Canadian and you're watching this, you can absolutely travel to one of these consulates that we're talking about in the United States if it's really hard for you to find an appointment at your nearest Mexican consulate in Canada, which happens to be the case a lot. that they're just very swamped with, Mexican nationals, so they don't have a lot of visa appointments, and maybe the staffing is not as big as in the United States.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're having a hard time finding an appointment, you can totally travel to one of these cities in the United States.
Right.
You as a Canadian can just come into the United States with your Canadian passport.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a side note there. So what are the requirements for temporary residency? Income and savings requirements. It varies by consulate.
Thank you for that. It varies by consulate. The lowest I've seen is 4,200 per month income. The highest I've seen is 4,500, which was the average last year. A lot of consulates at the beginning of the year, every January, they adjust because it's based on Mexican minimum wage. So this year, they actually adjusted, and the amount went down a little bit because the peso and the dollar, the peso adjusted. So it wasn't, it wasn't 16.5 at the beginning of the year. It was more like 20.5. So that adjusted. So the minimum requirements went down a little bit. So about 4,200 to 4,500 USD after taxes. So if you're showing your income deposits, you need to be showing what you're making net. And then for savings, I like 71 to 75,000 consistent ending balance over the course of 12 months. So some people will ask me, oh, but I had 150,000, but then I don't know. They did something. I loaned money to my brother for a down payment on a house, and then he paid me back 2 months later. And so then I had 225,000 because I'd resaved the money. Like, no, it's not an average over time. It has to be that ending balance every month. But when they say savings can also include investment accounts. Some offices, again, consulate specific, some offices will take IRAs, 401ks, etc., even if you are under retirement age and applying for temporary. Some will not. Some want it to be something that's very liquid that you can access, tomorrow if you had to. We have, and this is a new trend that we've been seeing, that if you're applying via income, they are saying, well, what happens when you move to Mexico and you no longer have that job? You also have to prove your savings. So I've seen that happen a couple of times. I don't know.
Oh, that the consulate is asking for both income and savings at the time of that.
Okay. Yeah. Or I've also seen in some of my groups, I haven't had it personally happen to any of my clients, but I've seen it happen in some groups where they ask for 12 months of income, which is also not but so basically,
we're written in the law.
Yeah, be prepared for anything. Just go in over prepared, but also organized. Like, don't walk in, and be like, I got a deck of cards and I got my son's like, you know what I mean? Like, you go in as organized as possible. No, I have nowhere to put this. As organized as possible with things labeled, even if they're kind of like on the about approving you, really, they love organization. They really do. So if you can show that, like, you're taking this seriously, like you really want this and you took the time and energy, you're not just like, hey, I want to come live in Mexico. Here are my bank statements, and we see that too at immigration. Like they see so many people. And so they really love, like, I have an assistant that actually just the other day, he had an agent at the window. He knew that my assistant was the second to next up. And he got up and like walked away and like kind of just like pretended to go look at something because he wanted my guy, because my guy's so organized. He didn't want to deal with like an unorganized person.
He's like, next. No.
He's like, yeah. He's like, no, not you. He's like, not you. You keep going. Okay. He's like, oh, I was so hoping I'd get you. You're always so organized.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's, you're taking it seriously. You're getting residency in a foreign country. Like, you're not going to the DMV and renewing your driver's license.
Yeah.
So, it can take time. It takes a lot of paperwork. We love to kill trees over here.
And signatures.
Yeah, signatures. I'm stuck with my signature that's on my passport that I can't match on my citizenship documentation now because it's the passport that I have and I don't know how to read.
You have to practice.
I
That's
know, it's
hilarious.
horrible. Um, but yeah, those are some just like little tips, like as organized as possible.
Which
Labels,
I have to
highlighting.
say, like, that is probably okay. Hiring an immigration facilitator has many benefits, right? Like,
Right.
for starters, the right facilitator, by the way. There are some that are just like straight up scam artists. And if you do any
Sadly.
research on them, you'll know who they are.
Right.
But the right ones and the competent ones and the ones that are true experts and true professionals know exactly what documents you will need, right? At least as of yesterday, because they
Right.
were probably at immigration
Right.
yesterday.
Like that
What
birth
they need to
certificate
have
thing
in that
threw
day.
me. I'm like, I just processed 2 children today. Where's this
Yeah.
birth certificate thing coming from? But I'm like, okay, I mean, thank you for that data point because
Yeah.
new to
Let me
me.
go back with my client and regroup.
Yeah.
But yeah, they add so much value to the process. For starters, they help calm your nerves because they will help you be prepared for a very important step in your move to Mexico. This isn't just like whatever, you guys. This is a very important document. Mexico does have laws and they do have processes. And so you want to make sure that you're doing it correctly so that you can live in Mexico without the fear, right? That the next time you come in, you might not get 180 days as a tourist and you might only get 7. And what if you have furniture and pets, or a house, or
Right.
a life, friends, family, and those border runs, I highly advise against it. But yeah, they offer a lot of services. For starters, they help you get an appointment, which it depends also on which immigration office you're going to go with in Mexico. They help you get the right documents to your appointment. They help prepare you. They help tell you exactly what to expect. So like a timeline of events. That way you can, book the appropriate amount of time. If you're coming to Mexico solely for your canje or solely to be able to do that, the exchange, they can at least give you the right expectation of like, you should really plan for a buffer window because things can happen.
Yeah, I had 2 this
So
week. One,
yeah.
the visa wasn't in the system. I mean, it was in the airport system, but they had, visa was in the system, and then the one where she and I and everybody did everything right, and the airport marked her in as a tourist. I mean, that can
Oh,
take up to
that one.
20 days to
Yeah.
resolve.
Yeah.
Business days, Mexican business days. So
That's on the topic of like it can take up to 20 days. Kind of the rumor right now, and I know that I shouldn't do this, but I want to kind of address a rumor. And there's a rumor kind of circulating around the different Facebook groups that it's currently taking people like 3-5 months to be able to do their family unity visas. So what are you seeing? What is actually the truth?
So that applies. I haven't seen 3 to 5 months, but I don't know. I'm doing a permanent conversion on not Monday, the following Monday. So that's going to be my first Mexican. And so what it really applies to is if it's a Mexican document. So if it's a Mexican birth certificate, so if it's a parent getting residency through a Mexican born child, if it's spousal, I guess those are the only 2, right? Yeah. They are needing to verify that Mexican document is in fact a legitimate document. So it is only supposed to take 20 days, but I've been seeing people. I had someone message me. I have no idea where they came from. Not a client, but they just randomly messaged me on WhatsApp, and they were like, "Hey, I mean, my husband got an exit permit. We've been out of the country 60 days. It expires on July 5th. We haven't gotten any updates. Like, what do we do? Like, you come back into the country, you request another exit permit. I mean, you just have to keep waiting, or you just stay in the country. I mean, these are, other, I mean, I don't like to compare Mexico to other countries. You can't leave. You don't have the luxury of leaving. Like, like in Mexico, So, but it is not. It is in fact happening, and it's majority. I would say 100% that I have seen. It's when it's involving a Mexican issued document. So
Okay.
they have to verify that it's not a fake document, it has been falsified in any way or anything of the sort.
Okay. It's
I've done,
legitimate.
I've done tons of family unities over the past, couple of months since they really started cracking down on all of this stuff. And as long as it's like two citizens from the same country, so I have, two Americans or two Chinese clients or two, Venezuelan clients marrying each other, it's fine. Sorry, I have some little bug. All the
I know,
rain,
me
all
too.
the rain.
Yeah.
I did on Monday have two clients, and although it wasn't a Mexican document, they were two clients from two very different countries. One was from the US, and just for the sake of privacy, one was from a very uncommon country, and they didn't have them come in to validate that they were actually married. They interviewed them, they asked them their address, all of that stuff. I mean, not as intense as they do with the Mexican issued documents, but they still did that verification, etc. So
Okay.
what we always do is have the foreigners wait outside the office so that if immigration does say, hey, are they, we need to talk to them, we're able to call them in and they can go through the process as smoothly as possible.
Yeah. Mirna, thank you so much for being here. So she is a Mexican citizen. She was born in Mexico, but they live in the United States, and she wants to be able to give her husband residency. Her husband is
Fabulous.
retired, 64. What papers would he need? It's actually very simple for you. I mean, would you recommend that she start the process at the Mexican consulate? Sorry, at the Mexican consulate, or would you recommend that she travels to Mexico with her husband and he come in as a tourist, and then they start the process in Mexico?
So there's actually 3 recommendations that I have here. If your
Okay.
husband meets the qualifications for permanent residency on solvency, if he's 64 and retired, I wouldn't even go through family unity.
Really?
I would just go straight solvency.
Okay.
Because he'd become permanent immediately versus temporary, and then permanent. So if that's not the case, then if you start at the consulate, he's gonna have to renew because you are gonna get the conhe, which is only good. Sorry, like all backwards today. Only good for 1 year. So he would have to do the conhe and then in a year renew again, and you have to show all of your documentation again. Do the interview because it's going to be a Mexican document, etc., and then go to permanent after that. If you come straight to Mexico, he most likely will get 2 years straight off the bat. So you only have to do the conversion from temp to permanent. So if you do that in each office differs.
Yeah.
In Mexico City, if you were married in the US, Mexico City requires that you actually get your marriage certificate registered at Registro Civil.
Oh, okay. Your foreign marriage
So you have to
certificate?
take your foreign
Okay.
marriage certificate because you're a Mexican citizen. Your marriage is supposed to be registered at Registro Civil. So Mexico City requires the Mexican marriage certificate. So if you were married outside of Mexico, that is a step that you have to take here in Mexico City. Other Cuernavaca last month didn't require that. They took the American marriage certificate. So
Yeah, I guess it depends, Mirna, on how much time you have and whether your husband is economically solvent to meet the criteria for permanent residency from the very beginning.
Yep.
If he's not, then perhaps it sounds like maybe the
Apostille.
process in Mexico would be the best.
Yep. So the first paperwork document you're going to want is to get if you were married in the US, get the marriage certificate apostilled and then get it translated because you're going to have to do that no matter which office you use in Mexico.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to need to have that done to register the marriage at Registro Civil if you're using an office that requires the Mexican marriage certificate.
Okay.
I hope that.
Yeah, great advice. By the way, if anybody wants to work with Gabrielle, we do recommend her in our complete Mexico relocation guide. I will add a link to how you can get access to that. And I can't recommend her enough. She's amazing.
I had two clients. I just came from two clients that found me through you. They're staying close to me, and they're like, "Oh, if we can, we'll try and hop on and say hi." I don't know if they got a chance to
Yay!
or not. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you guys if you're watching for buying the guide. So yeah, please, if you are interested in working with her, definitely hire her. She's very well informed on what is needed. And, she also keeps in touch with a lot of other facilitators across the country. So
Yes.
she's well aware, you're well aware of all the other, like, there's a gnat. You're well aware of all the other processes that are going on in immigration in many other cities. So in some cases, you might be able to like tell them, hey, this might be best for you to like go with one of my colleagues. Or if for whatever reason, Mexico City may seem like not the best option, which I can't think of a situation where Mexico City would not be the best option.
I can think of some, like you didn't realize that you had to do the Conhe conversion, and it's May.
Okay, yeah, like if you need
May
an
28th
appointment
and you need an
today.
appointment tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
send you up to this office. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
right. That they take walk-ins and
yeah,
like you can.
exactly.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is if there's 3 pieces of advice that I can give people before moving to Mexico is number 1, get your documents apostilled before
100%.
you move to Mexico. Like,
Yep.
I think you should start doing that 3-6 months before you move. They don't expire, so might as well get them apostilled.
Right.
And I would get like, 2 or 3 apostilles because sometimes they might keep the original. Like you never know
Like my
if
birth certificate for my naturalization. I mean, that's not residency, but they kept it. Like I
yeah.
know, luckily I have 2 copies of my birth certificate, but yeah, I don't get that back ever.
I mean, you can still get things apostilled if you're not in the United States or Canada anymore, but it will require more time. And sometimes they won't take copies. There are like apostille brokers that will get copies for you of your documents with an apostille, but sometimes immigration won't take copies. They want the originals. So it really just depends on the agent. It depends also on the office. It depends even on the process.
Yep.
So get your documents apostilled.
Mexican documents, they 100% keep. Like if it's a birth certificate or a marriage certificate, they keep the original. So luckily here we have this kiosk in Mexico City where you can just go and print off birth certificates. And so, sometimes clients will be like, "Oh, can you print off 5 just so we have them?" And we'll go and, it's another little extra service that we provide.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The other is apply for residency sooner than later. Like the
100%.
requirements change every year. I mean,
Yep.
we've been saying this for years. Like,
Yep.
please apply sooner than later because the requirements tend to change every year. We don't know what's going to happen in 2026. We don't even know what's going to happen for the rest
next
of
month.
2025.
I don't know what's going to happen next week.
Yeah. But what we do know is things always change. So just apply sooner than later.
Yep.
I would say that. And the other is pay attention to your documents, you guys. Like pay attention to the expiration dates. Pay attention to what the process is. Like be curious on what to expect next. Don't like assume that Mexico has no laws. I know that like I say that I've said that twice, and I think it's because it's just been kind of a theme I've seen in some groups and like, oh, what's the big deal? Just move there and figure
Mexico,
it out.
No one cares. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they do. Like
no, yeah.
they really do with certain
Yeah.
things. I mean, there's no, where's my trash? But like that's another story. But certain things they're pretty strict about. You made me think of an error when you were talking about paying attention to your dates.
Mm-hmm.
Americans and their expiration dates.
Mm-hmm.
Day, month, year. So I'll get people. So I had someone, it worked in her favor, luckily, but she was like, I need to come. I'm coming these dates. And then she it was a hard one because it was like August 7th or July 8th, one of the two. And she booked her flight for a month too early. But, had it been the reverse, she would have missed out.
And too late.
It would have been too late. Yeah. So remember that it is day, month, year on your expiration date and your issue date. And also that your issue date on your card is the day that you entered Mexico on the Canje. It's not the day that you got the card from immigration. So say you are in one of those situations where you came in on a Canje and your visa is lost in the system and you have to wait 60 days. So you came in on, say, March 1st. You waited 60 days. You didn't get your card till June 1st. Your expiration date is going to be February 28th of the following year. It's going to be like 10 months away, not a year.
Yeah, good
So
point.
that's something that like people don't think about. They're like, oh, but I just got it like 10 months ago. Yeah, you did, but your process started 12 months
2
ago.
months later. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's just something, just pay really close attention to those dates and remember that it's correct according to the rest of the world. America, we're backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know what Canada does though.
Canada does it too.
Yeah.
I believe so. I'm pretty sure that Canada uses month, day, and year. Another good point on that is that, you have up to 55 days after it expires if you are outside of Mexico. Once you enter Mexico, you have 5 days to renew. If for whatever reason your expiration date just passed and you're like, oh, crap, I missed it.
Right.
You have a grace period of 55 days.
Yes. Caveat, 2 of them. One, you have to prove that you were not inside the country. So if you exited via land, for example, there's no way to prove that you're out of the country.
Yeah.
And if you forgot to check out at the INM kiosk and get your exit stamp, no way to prove you're out of the country.
Good point. Yeah.
Those are 2 things. The other one being that only applies to renewals. It does not apply when converting to temporary to permanent.
Okay. Yeah. Good points. Thank you so much for that clarification and for those caveats. Yeah, very important. Land borders are awesome, but man, do they get people in trouble.
They do.
People don't stop and get their FMM when they're coming in for Canje, which is a huge problem, especially if you're driving all the way to inland Mexico.
Yeah, I know. I have some clients doing that, I think next week, and I don't know the dates. I'm so discombobulated this week, but I'm like, stop at the border. Don't forget to stop at the border. Call me before you cross the border. Don't forget to stop at the border.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be driving all the way back to the border undocumented, technically. And you just don't want to get into that mess. But
yeah, definitely. So please, if you're coming in for Canje, stop at the border, get your FMM. It is necessary for you to finish your residency visa process. When you get to an airport, make sure you speak to a human agent. Do not go through the automated kiosks. Those are for tourists only and Mexican nationals. Do not use them. If you are coming in for Canje, or if you are already a resident, you should still speak to a human.
You must speak to a human if you're a resident already too, because otherwise it's marked as tourist. Yeah.
Do not use those automated kiosks. You will know what they are if you go to an airport and you see one. They're basically just there to be able to facilitate and expedite the process for people that are coming in.
Yeah. And they try to, if you come in on a late flight, a lot of times they try to push you to go through them because they have fewer human agents working. And if you are coming in on a late flight, I actually tell people, have your visa open. Why can I not get your visa open? I know. Have it open. There's always a Marine manning the lines. Have it open. Canje. If you need to write Canje on a Post-it on top, and do not let them, force you to the automatic gates. And same if you're a resident, just have your residency card right there on top of your passport. First thing they see, so that there's no confusion. Same thing when you get up to that agent. Canje open, residence card on top of your passport. So there's no doubts that you're, even though it still happens, as exhibited by my poor client.
This is how you spell Canje, by the way, for those of you who hear it and you're like, what in the world did she just say? That's what you need to see on the FMM, or that's what you need to see on the digital FMM that you get. So by the way, that is how you spell Canje. If you want to Google what it means, or we have a really good blog post on our website that tells you what it is and what to expect, but that's how you spell it. All right, I think I can take 2 more questions, and in the meantime, I just wanted to say, Gabrielle, we have so many fans. talking about you
Yay.
in the comment section, by the way. So I just wanted to let you know that a lot of people are saying thank you for helping them out and that they've hired you, money well spent. Yeah, she's a real deal with the fire emoji. So
Awesome. Thanks.
and
Yeah,
some
my
people are
team.
also sharing like some consulates that were very quick and easy for them, like
Ooh.
Atlanta, New York
Oh,
City.
Atlanta. Yeah. Atlanta. I hear Atlanta a lot, but I don't know why I hear Atlanta a lot. Like I don't know if it's because I hear it because it's good or because it's bad. But are they jurisdictional is my question. I don't think they
Oh,
are.
good point. Yeah, they might require you to live in that immediate area.
Yeah.
This is a good one that I think comes up a lot. And, you know,
100%.
parents who have children with disabilities who are over 18, they're not married.
Right.
How do they prove that they are actually dependents to be able to get them to have residency?
They need to get some sort of a document, like a state document, showing that they are an adult dependent, either medically or legal adult dependent, and then just get it translated, apostilled, and then get it translated here in Mexico, and then you can get them, you can bring them in as a dependent.
Okay.
Yep.
So can you give an example of the types of documents that they're like a doctor signing off that this
No, I think it has
person?
to be like a state thing, like where
Okay,
you are under. They are, the state is saying that
we're
this
their guardian.
child, is there, that they are still under guardianship of this adult due to whatever the circumstances may be, and then get it apostille. Yeah, because it has to be issued in order for it to be apostille. It has to be issued by a state or government agency. Apostilles can't be applied to like I don't know bank statement, right, or like a
Yeah,
doctor's letter.
right.
That's a notarization. So yeah, you would have to be some sort of formal documentation where like an evaluation was done and the state says that you have guardianship, and then get that apostilled and then get it translated down here by a legal or a court appointed translator, and
Okay.
then it shouldn't be, yeah, it should be pretty easy peasy.
Okay. Now, Rosalind has a question that I think some people might, I think there's just a lot of news and a lot of politics being shared everywhere. So she's wondering, with the current everything temperature of the United States, has there been word on Mexico stopping or capping or discontinuing temp or permanent residency? She's read rumors. Rumors are just rumors.
Yeah, I always tell people, especially after they've hired someone, I'm like, stop reading the internet.
Yeah, good advice.
Just
Oh,
stop.
can I please add to that? If you hire, especially if you hire a facilitator that you found in our online guide and they are asking you for their passport, for your passport, for your very personal documents, it is okay to share that
It's
information with
because
them.
we have to have them if you want
Yes,
us to help you. Yes.
they are not going to steal your information.
Yes.
I don't recommend just anybody, you guys. These are reputable people. So
Right. Right. We have
you can
no, yeah,
trust them with your very sensitive documents.
especially me, because now I'm going to have two pretty soon. So I don't need anybody's anything.
Oh, two
I don't,
passports? Yeah.
yeah.
Gabrielle's becoming a Mexican citizen, y'all.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
In regards to that, the rumors thing, I mean, we have not seen anything. I have not heard anything. The thing that I could potentially see is them just like, getting stricter. I would see it on, I feel like we would see it on the consulate side where
Mhm.
they're, they get the requirements get stricter, or which we've already seen over the course of the years, things like, oh, now you have to have a letter from your bank, or now, you have to have a letter from your employer stating that you're allowed to work remotely, if you're a remote employee. So I feel like if we were to see that, um it would come in that form. It wouldn't be like, oh no, Mexico's only accepting 100,000 applicants per year, or whatever. I have no
Yeah,
idea. I'm terrible with
sure.
numbers,
Just some
but
random number.
yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it. And honestly, if that were the case, it wouldn't be because of US politics. Like a lot of people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, oh, well, this happened, in the US, so that's why Mexico's doing this. Oh, well, guess what? This also happened in China, which is
Yeah.
causing Mexico to do this. And let's talk about something that happened here and this group of people that are doing other things in Mexico that are, under the law or not above the law or whatever.
Yeah.
That are causing these changes to occur. It's not necessarily anything to do with US politics.
Yeah.
So
I know. It's easy, right, to think that
yeah.
it's all like
Yeah.
connected somehow because, especially if you watch the news a lot.
Which I don't,
It,
which is lovely.
yeah, I don't either. I try not to. I mean, it's kind of hard to not like, get informed of it some way, somehow, but I don't go seek it. But if you go seek it a lot, then you're going to correlate everything to like US politics. So just no, it
Exactly.
has, in most cases, there is no correlation, even
Mm-hmm.
though it might seem that way.
Correct. Correct.
The other thing that I think is really important for people to know is, do they need an address when they're doing their canje for any residency visa? So do they need proof of address in Mexico? Oh, I just went blurry,
You just went
sorry.
blurry. That's okay. So in Mexico, you're going to need an address that is put on your solicitud that is taken to immigration to process your visa into a temporary residency card. That address, depending on the office, can be temporary. Well, it can be temporary, but some offices require you to show proof of address. So you need to bring in either a water bill, an electric bill, or a gas bill if it's the type of gas that is. There's two types of gas here where you have the guys that come and like pour the gas. I don't know how that works. I don't have it. And you just get like a written receipt. Not that kind. The kind that like comes in the mail with a name on it. In Mexico, majority of utility bills do not have the renter's or the tenant's name on it. It's in the name of the owner. Like I've lived in my apartment for 6 years. Nothing is in my name other than my internet, which does not count because internet, I don't know. I mean, internet, I guess, can be moved around so easily. I don't know the logic behind the internet bill not working, but it doesn't. It has to be one of those three things. Not many offices that I work with, well, none of the offices that I personally work with require the utility bill. I have seen other offices that are super strict about it. I've seen other offices that do home visits. So you want to like ask around, either get into the Facebook groups of the local area, contact a well-known facilitator in that area to find out like what exactly you need. In Mexico City, you can have a temporary address for the actual process, and then just make sure that you're following the law. In Mexico, when you're a resident, there are 4 conditions that you have to report to immigration within 90 days. One is a change of address. One is a change of civil status, so marriage, if you get married or divorced. One is a change of name, which is harder to do, but if you get married and then you take, a different name, you have to report that because all of your documents have to match also. And then the last one is change of nationality, which is not the most common, but sometimes people have dual citizenship. They get their residency, in one country with that passport, but then they decide that they want a different passport or different residency, a different citizenship to be exhibited on the residency card. And so they'll come in and they'll do what's called a change of citizenship or change of nationality. So say you're like a digital nomad, or say, you're coming down, or you're only going to spend 6 months a year or 3 months a year. And then you're going to go to Panama for 3 months, and then back to the States for 3 months and whatever. See if you can find someone that that is stable in Mexico to use that address, because you don't want to be changing your address. Like you go from here, say you're in Mexico City, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to go hang out in, I don't know, Bacalar for the winter because it's beautiful there. And we know how I feel about
speaking from experience.
Yes. And then, you don't want to be doing that. You don't need to be doing that every single time. Like you just need to have an address where someone can find, like if sorry, needs, does do a home visit where you have someone that can be like, yes, I know this person. Yes, they do, they do spend X amount of time here. Yes, this is their Mexican residency when they're here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just trying to verify, by the way, this isn't to scare anybody. They're just trying to verify that the address that you gave at immigration is indeed an address where you intend to live. But it is pretty rare for them to do home checks.
Yeah, especially in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do happen.
Yeah, they do. And they have been happening more with the family unity via marriage to a Mexican citizen, which happens in many other countries where you get residency or citizenship through a local spouse. So
yeah.
But for the initial one in Mexico City, Cuernavaca, Ensenada, Puerto Peñasco, Pachuca, where else do I serve? They don't ask for a proof of residency. We just need an address to process. And then once you have moved permanently or have found a more stable address, then you go in and you do that change of address, or you hire us to go do it, and you don't even have to show up. We just come pick up your documents. We go to the office, we drop them back off, and you're all good to go.
Yeah. It takes a lot of the stress away when you hire a good facilitator, for sure. And time and time again, don't take this only from me, by the way. I know that anybody can think I'm biased because, I obviously have a directory of these people, but trust me, I have so many clients who have told me, I saw people at immigration get turned away for the smallest thing. And I'm so glad I had my facilitator there to guide me and tell me you're going to need this, and that. Because I wouldn't have come prepared.
Yep.
They don't print these instructions anywhere.
Signing in black pen.
For example.
Not having your signature match your passport, not having your name match your passport, not knowing, the whole month, date, year thing, because there's so many different, and even as facilitators, we every once in a while, we'll be like, no,
yeah,
I did the birth date backwards, or I did the, expiration date on because there's 3 dates that go on that application. There's the birth date, the issue date, and the expiration date of the passport. So it's just a lot of data entry and a lot of details to pay attention to that, especially if you're doing it for the first time. We do it so often, it's,
what details to look for, and
exactly
what to double check. And,
exactly. Yeah. Now it's very, very, very so.
Well, I want to thank you for lending us your time and answering so many questions for us tonight. I hope this has been useful for you guys at home watching. So for those of you who have hired Gabrielle, thank you so much for sharing your good feedback with the rest of us. And Gabrielle, as always, I love talking to you.
I do too. Love talking to you, not to myself. You're getting a lot of cheesiness with me too if you hire me. So
by the way, if you guys are interested in knowing what is canje, what are the requirements for residency, what is the process, what are the mistakes that a lot of people make, what is the overall timeline that you can expect, although I try to be kind of careful on that. What is a facilitator? How much do they charge? What questions to ask them? All those things I have in a free guide that I just linked down below, by the way. So, and I tell you what kinds of residency visas you can get. It's not only economic solvency, you can get them through family. If you have ties to a Mexican national or a Mexican resident, there's also residency through employment, although that is usually the employer does the entire process. So you don't really need a facilitator in that regard because the employer is the one that would hire the facilitator at that point.
Right.
They should. So most of the time you won't have to deal with one-on-one with immigration the same way that if you were coming in through economic solvency. But there are other residency visas, by the way. So anyway, if you're interested in knowing all those details, I have a free guide that I just linked in the comments down below. So go check it out. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. And stay tuned for our next live stream where I hope to interview a lady that lives in Puerto Vallarta. She moved there with her 4-year-old. And she has a lot of really good information to share about enrolling her kid in school and just all the learnings. And what it's been like for her as a single mom living in Puerto Vallarta. And, I hope that you guys find it interesting. I'll let you guys know when it comes out. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Help us get to 100,000 followers. We're so close.
That'd be awesome.
So, thank you, Gabrielle.
All right. Thank you, Mariana. Have a good one.
Nos vemos pronto.
Claro que
Bye.
sí. Bye.